Okay, welcome. As I said, I'm Mark. This is Circle of the Dark Mother. I have Brandon and James with me too. And we will be starting the presentation here on Santa Muerte. So hopefully you can see the screen. Can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the first question is, who is Santa Muerte? I am not very good at speaking Spanish because my language that I work with outside of English is Hebrew, and pronunciation is very different, but I'll butcher this, I'm sure. Nuestra Señora de la Santa Muerte, Spanish for Our Lady of the Holy Death. Santa Muerte is a folk Catholic saint prevalent in Mexico and through the Americas. As you know from probably iconography you've seen of her, she's a personification of death. She provides healing, protection, and safe passage after death. And in fact, her devotees pretty much work with her the way I work with Lilith, which is for everything. But those are her main attributes. The Catholic Church has repeatedly denounced her, but her followers are growing year over year. And in fact, in the last few years, her devotion has gained so much popularity that even the church is starting to take notice of that. There are other names for her that you may hear. Santa Muerte is, of course, the most well-known, but she is also called the skinny lady, the white lady, the bony lady, the white girl, the white sister, the pretty girl, the godmother, lady of the shadows, holy girl, most holy death, most saintly death, and the powerful lady. There are many more, but of course, a lot of these names are pointing toward her, the view that she's holy, and also a lot of these because she's skeletal. And you will see statues of her in various colors, various positions, various ornaments, and we'll talk a little more about that in a few minutes. So what is her origin? So probably what most people believe is that Santa Muerte comes out of the Aztec heritage that predates Christianity coming to the New World. The goddess, and again, I'm not very good at pronouncing this, Metacoatl was the Aztec goddess of death and ruler of the underworld. Her name means Lady of the Dead. Once the Spanish conquered the Aztec Empire, all of the native people, of course, were forced to convert to Christianity, but a lot of them kept their veneration for their previous deities. This happened in a lot of countries. We know in Celtic lands that a lot of the saints that were venerated were actually deities previous to the conversion to Catholicism, and then later Protestantism. But the source for Santa Muerte is probably this Aztec goddess of death. People were punished for worshiping non-Christian deities, so they began to call her Santa Muerte and dressing her in the robes of Mother Mary so that they could hide in plain sight. Any questions about the origins of Santa Muerte at this point? Okay, so followers, who follows Santa Muerte? Well, at this point, it's a lot of people. She's seen as non-judgmental and a goddess for everyone. One of the big things about Santa Muerte is she is not seen as somebody that only the rich or powerful can worship. She's seen as somebody that everyone can go to, because if you think about it, everyone is going to die at some point. So the fact that Santa Muerte is a goddess of death, she literally affects everyone and is in everyone's life. In Mexico, most of her devotees are from urban working class parts of the country. But again, she crosses all, all strata. It's just there are more of the urban working class. There are more women than men followers, although there are both. Historically, most of her devotees were Catholic because she is now considered a folk Catholic saint, but that's really changing. A lot of the people that are worshiping her are leaving the church, or people that already have left the church that have found her. So her demographic has changed dramatically.
She has a growing religion too.
Yeah, very growing religion around her instead of Catholicism or even any other. And there's not a lot of books. I did put one out there that I know Jean posted in the book club, but there's a lot of YouTube videos with a lot of people talking about her devotion. She's a very popular deity in prisons and also popular with prostitutes and gang members, because she works with everyone evenly. Anyone feels like they can come to her and not feel like they are going to be judged. She is also seen by many as a protector of the LGBT plus community, and has become, been followed very, very highly by a lot of gay and lesbian people. So one of the things you'll see when you look at these statues of Santa Muerte is you will see all kinds of colors and styles. You'll see tiny statues all the way up to life size. And in fact, in Mexico, you may even see real skeletons that are draped to be Santa Muerte, or just life-size statues that are skeletal. The colors actually mean something. So when she is clothed in certain colors, there's a reason. And her devotees usually, and it's because this is such a folk manifestation and so many different people, it can mean different things to different people, but the generally regarded colors are: gold is for abundance and money, red is for love and family. And again, these are all various colors of these, or shades of these colors as well. So pink tends to be less romantic love, red tends to be more passionate love. Purple is for a change from negative to positive and asking for good health. Silver, good luck and to bring money. Amber, health. Black, protection, especially against black magic. Green, justice and legal matters. Copper breaks negative energy and it does exorcisms. Blue is wisdom. Brown is spirit communication. White is purity. And then you'll see a number of them that are multicolored. And in that case, it's a combination of meanings, whatever the colors are. And in sometimes they're a rainbow. And the idea there is you only need one statue to do everything you're doing. It doesn't mean that if you only have one in a black robe, you can't use or call upon her for anything but protection against black magic. But the color is something that people do attribute, and that's why the multicolored ones are very popular. Any questions or comments about the colors or anything I've talked about so far? Okay, you'll notice some other things with her. She usually has a side. This is to represent the reaping of souls. A lot of her statues will have sides that are removable. In fact, the one that I have there, the large statue you can see, which has more of an Aztec look, that side is removable and you can pull it out. She usually has a globe, which is showing that she rules the world with no borders. She is not just in Mexico or South America or wherever, because death has no bounds. The owl, very much like with Lilith, is for knowledge and wisdom, nighttime, and also the idea of the transcendence between worlds. The hourglass, if she has one, is the fact that we have limited time on Earth. Skulls, mortality. Everyone is skin over bone. The scales, if she has them, shows judgment. And the book is the book of life and death. The fact that she knows when all will die. You may see other iconography. Again, she varies all over the place depending on who made the statue, what country, what the belief system is. But those are some of the main things you will see on a Santa Muerte statue. The most popular are the Sai, the owl, and the world. Those are almost every one of her statues. So the next topic is altars. So if someone's going to make an altar to her, what do they put on it? The big thing with Santa Muerte is she's not one that has to be done in a very specific manner. You know, some deities you'll read about very, very specific tools and very specific ways of setting them up. Because Santa Muerte is for everyone, she may only have a very small altar in someone's home and be on almost like a bookshelf. She may not have a large area. On the other hand, you can include more and more things if you would like. Her altar is usually only to her, although it is said by a lot of practitioners that she does work really well with St. Jude and St. Cyprian. I have had her work with Lilith without a problem. You know, I think any saints that are about death, protection, any deities that are about the night and death, and again, protection and transformation, I think she will work with. But the common belief is to give her own altar. But again, St. Cyprian and St. Jude being on that altar is fairly typical also. You can put her altar almost anywhere in your home, as long as there's a place for her statue, some offering bowls, and a candle. It does need to be in a place that you can get away from others for about 15 minutes minimum, because they do recommend at least 15 minutes of working with her every day. Just like any deity, of course, the more you put into your relationship, the more you'll get out of it. But they do say 15 minutes is probably the minimum that you want to spend with her every day. The altar and the space needs to be cleaned physically and then spiritually. What a lot of practitioners do is they will use warm salt water and or smudge. And that depends a lot on you know, where her altar is. If it's a clean surface, the warm salt water is good. If, of course, there's an altar cloth and stuff, you may smudge more often. Other items could be an aloe plant, apples, a black mirror, dirt, especially graveyard dirt, incense, salt, sugar skulls, and or items of the ancestors are recommended. Again, you don't have to have any of these things other than really a candle, an offering bowl, and her, but you can put a lot of other things on it. My recommendation is always to start out with what you feel you want to start with, and then let it grow from there. Let her tell you what she wants. It doesn't have to be a huge space, and you don't have to limit it to what other people say, but it's over time, as the relationship grows, you will get more of a clear message of what she would want. For offerings, you can offer her a whole bunch of different things. Water, food, cigarettes, alcohol, oils, flowers, jewelries, and on and on and on. She really will take any kind of offering, but the ones listed are the most common. You know, if you think about urban life, you know, middle class in Mexico, where maybe you don't have a lot of money, you offer what you have. And that's why water and food, cigarettes, you know, all these things. Flowers are very, very big with her. You know, the whole point that she is a death deity. Marigolds specifically are associated with her. But again, it doesn't have to be marigolds. Any flower that you would feel comfortable giving at a funeral would work with her. Yeah. Roses, lilies, really anything. Before I move on, I want to see if there's any other questions or any comments so far.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Jean.
Hi. So, you mentioned that she worked well with Lilith, and I was wondering if she sort of recognizes other dark mothers and if she might work well with Hecate.
Yes. So exactly. She's really good with other dark mothers that are either moon goddesses, death goddesses, any of the goddesses that are really there about transformation. I've seen her work well with. Now, it's everybody individual's path. I've heard people say that they struggle like with Lilith and Hecate on the same altar. I don't have that problem. They work great for me. But part of it's also our consciousness. If we have a block saying they're not going to work, they're not going to work. But I do believe that Santa Muerte would be great with Hecate.
Yeah.
Hecate does death stuff too, the graveyard. I believe she would work well with Pampajira. You know, really any of the nighttime goddesses. She's a dark mother, a protectoress, transformation. Because if you think about the tarot card of death, it's not about physical death, it's about transformation.
Mhm.
And so really she's transformation. So yeah, I think any of those.
I
And
know
James
that,
and Brandon, go ahead.
Oh, I know that in New Orleans at her chapel that they have for Santa Muerte, that a lot of practitioners of Hecate go there as well.
Yeah.
So I know a few practitioners who work with Hecate and Santa Muerte. So
Yeah. There's some people who've been led to each deity. Like sometimes someone gets led to Santa Muerte by Hecate, or vice versa. It very much depends on the person and their path. I mean, like I see practitioners who work with them together, and I also see practitioners who will tell you that that is absolutely false and that you should never work with Santa Muerte with another spirit. But again, it very much depends on you and your own practice. Like I've not experienced any backlash with working with Santa Muerte, and I am a devotee of the goddess Hecate. And like I've petitioned Santa Muerte before, and she's only ever been sweet to me, but like, you know, that may not be everyone else's experience, you know.
And you know, I've heard people say that they absolutely could not work with Lilith and Hecate together. And that is completely not my experience.
Yeah.
Our whole house is Lilith and Hecate. So we know they work okay together for us. But you also have to think about your relationship with the goddesses. You know, if you're devoted to one of them and you bring another one in and don't sort of do it in the proper way, it can mix up your consciousness, which is going to affect the energy. For me, I know Lilith is always my primary. When I bring Hecate in, I see her as and she knows this, again, I don't make false claims to either. I bring Hecate in as a mother figure that works with Lilith, but I never say like, you're my primary. I know it's Lilith. And I know James is the opposite. Hecate is his primary, but he works with Lilith. And it's sort of the same thing with Santa Muerte for me. She's not my primary. I would never propose that, but I can bring her in and work with her, and she works well. Now, I think if you try to bring in two and you try to completely split your time, I just think your consciousness gets messed up and it gets difficult to do.
Yeah, it's kind of about like where you're giving the most of your energy. Like back when I was in Colorado, I knew this one lady who worked with Santa Muerte religiously, had a store and everything. And one of the things that she used to tell us about working with Santa Muerte with other deities is that you kind of do have to be careful, because they take like your loyalty to account. Like you kind of don't want them to look at you as like a whore who goes to like everyone and asks, but doesn't have like a specific loyalty. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of about devotion, essentially.
So as long as you're clear in your mind who is your primary and who else you're working with, and maybe you have multiple primaries. Again, every relationship's different. It's sort of like partners, you know. Some people are monogamous, some aren't, but there's a predefined set to how that works. And as long as you and the deities are okay, it works well. So the basic answer is, I think it can work. It's a little bit up to you and how you make it work. And I usually do start with having separate altars for different deities, but then I've had them speak to me to bring them together. Like right now, Santa Muerte is sitting on one of my Lilith altars.
Yeah.
She's not going to stay there, but she's there for this talk. And it's almost like she's taken center stage for a few minutes. And Lilith's like, okay, cool. We'll give my sister some time. but when you're done, give me my altar back if I'm going to anthropomorphize her a little bit. So,
Thank you, guys.
sure, thank you. Other
Also,
questions or comments so far?
For
Oh, go ahead, Jean.
for the other two, it's a little hard to hear you. So Mark, I hear you great. The other two, it's kind of hard to hear. So I think I got everything that everyone was saying, but might want to speak up a little bit louder in the background.
Yeah, I project pretty loud, so I'm usually easy to hear. Thank you. Other questions or comments so far? Okay. The last slide, which doesn't have to end our discussion, but the last slide is on ritual, and that's probably a bigger discussion than any of the others. So rituals to Santa Muerte are like any other deity. You really work your way from starting out small and work your way to whatever becomes next for you. You know, devotees of Santa Muerte will often use a rosary, a Santa Muerte specific rosary, or even just a regular Catholic rosary, but that they've consecrated to her. The reason for this is since she is seen for some people as a Catholic saint, of course it makes sense to see her as an aspect of Mother Mary. And so they will use a rosary and pray the normal rosary or do it in a way that is to Santa Muerte. There's also, and I don't have an example here, but I found online a Santa Muerte novena. So just like if you were Catholic and you do a Mary novena, you can do one to Santa Muerte. Prayers of any kind. The one thing I found is, you know, a lot of, especially non-Catholic Christians, always use an intercessory but to go to deity. You know, they'll use either Jesus or some other way. Catholic people will sometimes use Mother Mary, but Santa Muerte devotees do not use anyone else. They go straight to her. You know, they see her as completely capable of taking their prayers and not needing someone else to go through. And in fact, I think that's one of the things that has really drawn women to Santa Muerte in more rural areas, is because they don't have to go to a priest. They can go directly to Santa Muerte themselves.
Yeah.
And don't have that feel that they have to go to a confessional or go into the church. You know, they may go there too, but that's not, they don't have to do that to have their relationship. There are much more intricate rituals people do. Just like any pagan tradition, you can pretty much do whatever works for you as long as it's respectful. You know, for me, I always work in a Kabbalistic manner because that's my background. And so when I work with Santa Muerte, just like I do Lilith, I will open a Kabbalistic sphere. If you are pagan and do a circle, do a circle. If you don't do any of that, you do like a druid tree paradigm with the well, or you don't open anything. You just do your ritual. Any of that can work with her. I think one of the good things about Santa Muerte is she's very non-traditional in the fact that if you have a statue of her and a candle, you're pretty much good to go. There's not a lot more you have to have. And again, her path is folk magic. So hoodoo, you know, brujeria, really any kind of magical form works with her. One of the things that they say is if someone is cursing someone, Santa Muerte stays clean by not actually doing the curse. She becomes a conduit and an other spirit actually does it. So I'm not a cursing person. I don't tend to curse. Working with Lilith, I tend to just say, Lilith, if somebody's, you know, hurting people, bind them and go do what you think needs best to stop the situation. I think Santa Muerte is a good one to do that same kind of thing because she can block negative things, she can bind. But if someone does do cursing, which in Santa Muerte practice some do, it's interesting that Santa Muerte sees herself as just the intermediary. She does not take on, you know, the karma or whatever you want to call it of the act. And just like death, death doesn't have any karma or any negative in the act of death. So really, Santa Muerte is a folk goddess called a saint because that's pretty much what had to be done to make her work in Catholicism. But her practitioners really don't limit her to sainthood. She is far above in their practice, just a normal saint. And she really is a deity. As we saw, she probably comes from an Aztec background and other Central and Southern American death goddesses. She pretty much works in any paradigm you can work with. And from what I've seen, a pretty mellow goddess from a standpoint of, because she's associated with death, I have not seen a lot, when I've worked with her, a lot of chaos. She's sort of calm, to me at least. Lilith can be a little chaotic. With Santa Muerte, I feel this resting presence. She can be quite energetic, don't get me wrong. It's not that she's not powerful or not intense, but the energy is not this chaos. It's more like a wave to me. So Brandon, James, any other comments? Or
I mean, like, she's all about like representational imagery magic, which I mean, like, she follows the concept of like, where if you have like her symbols, like if you have the symbolism of the spirit around, and like the spirit is there. That's why there's so many different Santa Muerte things. Like, many people who are devotees of Santa Muerte will probably have her in like every bedroom, like all over the house, just everything Santa Muerte. Because like, just having like the image of her brings her presence and her influence around.
yeah.
Yeah, and she's very similar as well. She's kind of like the Pombagira for Mexico. Like, because like Pombagiras in Brazil are very, very similar to Santa Muerte. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know both of those share the idea that they work with anyone,
Yeah.
especially the marginalized, women that have been marginalized, the LGBT community, criminals, people that have been outcast by society. So there is that big tie there. So I'm going to stop the sharing of the slides just so we can see if there's any comments. If I can get this. Okay. Okay, I see your comments, Jean, but you brought them up, so that was great. Other questions, comments, or thoughts about Santa Muerte, or anything? So a couple things before we close then I wanted to mention. So our next meeting next month, Brandon is going to present on Kurukula, who is most recently a Buddhist deity, sometimes seen as Red Tara, but she is much older than that. She's a deity that was before Buddhism, brought into Hinduism, but really more of a tribal deity. We have a great new book about Kurukula that I'm sure Brandon will use as part of this. And then we're going to go for a ritual after that. And the next month after that. I also want to put in a little plug for the Witch Lab book group, book club that Jean runs. Really good. I've been attending for a little bit, and it's a really good group of with lots of information, great books to read, great discussion. So let her talk about that in a minute. And then what are book recommendations I see from Michelle? There's only one book I have, and I don't have it with me, but I know I sent it to Jean, sent the name of it. there's only one. And in fact, we asked Lilith Dorsey when she was on a Witch Lab class for a recommendation. And she said she did not find any really good Santa Muerte books. It's really at this point, I'll tell you, the best Santa Muerte stuff I found was on YouTube. You have to sort of look at it and see, does it make sense or not? But I found some really good stuff with people actually showing their practice and real practitioners in their kitchen showing you how to work with Santa Muerte. And I'll try to post some ideas for those videos. Jean, did you want to say anything about the book club?
Sure, thanks. By the way, the book that you recommended was Santa Muerte, The History, Rituals, and Magic of Our Lady of the Holy Death by Tracy Rollin.
Thank you. I should have brought it with me and I didn't.
And I'm perfectly game to put this on the reading list because she sounds and feels a lot like someone I want to start working with. So
Yeah, she's very sweet.
yeah, she feels, I can feel just talking about her, I can feel her presence a little bit. And I feel like she would be very welcoming. That aspect of being called a dark mother, the mother part feels very accurate.
Yes.
So Witch Club, oh my God, I have words. So Witch Lab Book Club is the last Sunday of every month. And for the month of May, we will be reading Outside the Charmed Circle, which is taking an LGBTQ plus community look at building practice and ritual within paganism and witchcraft, which I am very excited to read. It's not a very thick book. I think this is something that feels very readable, very accessible. Our last book was 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and that was a chunky boy. A little hard to get through. I'm still trying to work through it. And then after that, we are not fully decided yet. So happy to take suggestions. We'll put a poll up about that pretty soon. So it's the last Sunday of every month at 7 o'clock. And if anyone is wanting to join, they need to go to the Facebook club, Facebook group, and request to join. You do need to answer the questions and you need to agree to the rules. If you do not, you will not be approved.
Excellent. And it's a great group. I also wanted to mention that, so they are the book club is the last Sunday. We are the first Sunday. So you can have 2 weeks in a row of fun. Also wanted to mention that the 16th of May, on a Sunday at 6 o'clock EST, I'll be teaching an Intro to Kabbalah class. It's a 2.5-hour class because we go through every one of the separate. The Kabbalah class will be an introduction from a Gnostic Kabbalah standpoint. It will cover the Tree of Life, the Tree of Qliphoth, and also an aspect of Lilith for each sphere. Because I just finished writing a book that's in edit right now that covers all those topics, so I figured why not. The class does cost $25, but those proceeds all go to Witch Lab. I don't take any proceeds. I basically started doing these classes to help Witch Lab out, especially during the pandemic. And so when it's one of these long, this meeting's always free, but if I do like a 2.5-hour class, I do let Tiffany charge for that. So if you're interested, it is on the Witch Lab events. If you don't have the money for the $25 and want to attend, reach out to me or to Tiffany and we will get you in. Don't even hesitate. And I think that's it, unless anybody has any other questions or comments.
I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of this. It feels very exciting to discover something new.
Thank you. I really enjoy covering all kinds of different stuff. And that's, if you're new to these meetings, we cover something different every time. We do focus somewhat on dark mothers because that's sort of what we do. But last time, you know, James did Belial or Belial, depending on how you pronounce his name. We do rituals, live rituals sometimes. We talk about anything that either we come up with or somebody else does. And if you have suggestions, let us know. If we know anything about it, we'll talk about it. We are going to do Kali at some point. And if you would like to present, you can reach out to me and we can get somebody on as a guest speaker. Totally happy to do that. So I'll close with that, but say thank you all for joining. We do have a YouTube channel, which we record these and put out there. So if you want to see any of our past, I think it's 5 or 6 meetings, those are out there. And once the pandemic is over, we will start meeting at Witch Lab Live, but we will still record so people can watch it. Okay, well, thank you all. Have a good Sunday, and we will talk to you soon. Blessings.